Alright, so today we are going from this stock halogen bulb that has a Lamin-X filter on it to this fancy HD fog light. 3000K, baby. Oh yeah. As you can see, the fog puts out a lot more light with the HID. Sorry about all that trash in the corner. Okay, so the first thing you want to do is jack up the car and take off the wheel. Alright, so now that we've took the wheel off, Mazda has conveniently put a little panel here that we can easily take away via screw here, 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 and here. Well, these are actually tabs, but screws down here, and there's I think 2 or 3 more down there. We can take out this panel right here to get access to the front fog light. Alright, so here's what we've taken out. 4 tabs, 1 big screw, and 2 little screws. And here we are. There's a brake right inside here. And then there is the fog light that we're trying to get out. And this one on the Miata has 3 screws, one there, one at the bottom, and one on the other side. Then there's a peg holding that hole in. So we're going to take this out, and I'll show you how to mod the fog light to fit the HID. Alright, so I've pulled that fog light out of the car, and this is the unit it is. And I've also took part of this cable just for demonstrative purposes. I'll show you what we're going to be doing with this later in relation to the HID kit that we'll be putting in here in place of this halogen bulb. So see, has the we're gonna keep that kind of guard in there, or deflector, I don't know what you call that metal thing in the center. I've seen some forums people rip them out to make them light up more, but I'm gonna keep them in just because I don't want it to be ridiculously bright and blind people. Even though this is a reflector housing in the first place, I don't think it reflects enough to blind people. Literally, it's not as bright as everyone thinks it's going to be. So basically, this is out of the car. And take this out. Come on now, there we go. And here's the light bulb. And this is the reason you have to do some modding in this particular model of fog light for the Miata and the Marauder, because this is the H1 bulb, okay? Or actually, I should say this is the housing. This right here is the H1 bulb. It's really, I don't know, I've never seen a bulb look like this, but it has a square base, and we're not using this anymore. So put this aside. And this, we're going to have to modify. This is what we're going to have to modify. We're going to go ahead and cut off this bottom part right here. We're going to take out all these guts of this housing. And we're going to Dremel out this hole a little bit bigger, because this is very different. This is an H1 bulb. That's what it said when I ordered it from DDM Tuning. And of course, this is what we get, and they are completely different. So, rule of thumb, never touch the bulb with your bare fingers. So I have some gloves I'll be getting out later when I'm handling this. But so this is what we're going to be doing. So here's what this looks like. And that's where we're going to be modding. Put this bit back on so I don't ruin it. So basically, the first thing we're going to do is take this housing after we've taken out that H1 bulb. We're just going to literally just rip all this metal out of it with some pliers. So you just gotta pull it really hard and pry it out, and it'll probably come out in pieces. But it's just like really hard glue that's holding these pieces in. Oh, and by the way, Once you modify this, if you screwed up or you want to go back to having a halogen bulb, you're probably going to have to buy a completely new housing, fog light and all, because you can't just buy this part alone. And if you're buying it from Mazda, it's going to be really expensive, but I think you can get the Ford part a lot cheaper. Oh shit, that is not what we wanted to do. Okay, you don't break the housing, that's bad. Okay, I think we're going to be okay. So we got that metal part out, and now we have to get rid of this like bend here, so we're going to cut with a hacksaw all across here, all across here, so by the time we'll be left with just this part with this O-ring on it. Alright, so what I've done here is I took a hacksaw and I cut all the way around here, and there is one little metal piece on the inside right here. See, you can see it between there. There's one metal piece just holding this still together. So you just got to be really careful. You don't want to break this housing like I said earlier, or else you have to find new one. Oh shit. Okay, so basically you just want to work it back and forth until that little metal tab breaks off. And this is what you're going to be left with, and this is what you want. So this was how it originally looked, sawed off, and this is what you want. This you can throw away. So this is what we want, and this hole we're going to Dremel out bigger because this bulb is not going to fit through this hole right here. You just get your little Dremel and go to work, make this hole a little bit larger. Okay, so after finally Dremeling with this a little while, I got it big enough to where I can use like a one of these sander bits, which works a lot faster than this tiny little thing. Okay, so I've Dremeled it into this hole, so now we just need to get this top right here a little bit more flush, because I'm going to be mounting this base on the inside of here like this, so it'll be sitting like this. Or if you wanted to, you could figure out how to mount it like this, like the base on this side of this housing. But I'm going to do it, I'm going to stick this through the top, and we're going to mount it like this on this side. So I'm going to Dremel this more flush. Alright, so I've pretty much Dremeled this very top of it flat, and then just wipe away all these little shavings away so it's nice and clean. And then we're going to start the mounting of the HID bulb. Okay, so for this H1 HID kit, it comes with these kind of connectors. And so for this to plug into the wiring harness for the fog lights, this is the this plugs into the harness, and then this plugs into the old H1 bulb. So what we have to do is we have to run from this. We have to cut these to shape and fit them inside here, and then we run that into the ballast, and the ballast runs into our HID light via these cables right there. So what we have to do is trim these, let me see if I can focus, trim these giant tabs to fit in those tiny holes. So for that we just grab a pair of wire cutters and start trimming. So for these ones I just trimmed them, they have that little circle right there, I just snipped it down to that circle. Okay, so it looks like this, and then we're just going to go ahead and grab a file and file it down to size for both of these connections, so they'll fit and our little lighting harness. They were this big, you got to grind them about to that big so that they will fit just like that. And I think I might put some heat shrink over this when I finally put it in the car. Alright guys, so this comes to the decision making part on how you want to do this. So I got my gloves on so I don't contaminate my bulb. And what I mean by the decision making part is, I'm going to take this out, basically how you want to mount your bulb into your makeshift housing. And what I mean by that is what I was talking about before. So what I'm going to do is our little housing that we dremeled, you're either going to, I'm going to do it like this. We're going to mount it like this and seal it up, or you can dremel this out further, slip it through the bottom, and put it up in here and seal it in. So this is on the bottom now. Ideally, this would be probably the most appropriate, but it's a one-time thing. If you screw up your housing, then you have to get a whole new light. Where this, I'm going to put it like this on this way. If it doesn't work out the best because it's heating up too much, or because this is, you know, the base is a little shorter this way as in stuff down here. If it heats up too much, I can always just take this off, peel the old silicone off, dremel it out, put this back on here this way. So I'm just going to do it this way. So because we're going to do that, we have to trim those off with we're going to have to trim those off with either a Dremel. Be super careful. You do not want to mess up these little lenses. You can Dremel them off, or you can cut them off. I think I am going to Dremel them off like I did to my other light. So just be so careful. This is the part where I'm not too sure. I know you're not supposed to touch that with your fingers, but I'm pretty sure you really don't want anything else touching it either. So alright, so after dremeling those little tabs off, there is a little bit of that plastic debris. Just going to take a little Q-tip and very lightly just brush that off, because you don't want that little plastic stuff on there. It'll like melt to the bulb when you turn it on. Definitely not good. Alright, so basically now I'm just going to test fit it. So here's how basically it's going to be. Like I said, I'm going to do mine on top like this. I think where all the heat from our bulb comes from is that little bubble in there is where most of the heat is formed in this bulb. So basically we're just going to silicone it, and it's going to be sitting like this. So this is the way I'm going to do it. Hopefully it'll hold. If not, I guess we could always Dremel it out more and have it sit inside this little housing like a regular H1 bulb is supposed to. So now comes probably one of the hardest parts. So basically we're just going to put silicone around here. Preferably if you can find high temp silicones, the best. All I could find from my local store was whatever this stuff is. Seems to work so far. And just gonna put it around the base of here and try our very hardest not to get any on the bulb, because that is bad and it will break. Well, let's hope it doesn't break. So see. basically we're just gonna I'm just gonna test fit it. So here's how basically it's gonna be. Like I said, I'm gonna do mine on top like this. I think where all the heat from our bulb comes from is that little bubble in there is where most of the heat is formed in this bulb. So basically we're just gonna silicone it, and it's gonna be sitting like this. So this is the way I'm gonna do it. Hopefully it'll hold. If not, I guess we could always drill mold it out more and have it sit inside this little housing like a regular H1 bulb is supposed to. So now comes probably one of the hardest parts. So basically we're just gonna put silicone around here. Preferably if you can find high temp silicones, the best. All I could find from my local store was whatever this stuff is. Seems to work so far. And just gonna put it around the base of here and try our very hardest not to get any on the bulb, because that is bad and it will break. Well, let's hope it doesn't break. So, let's see. Okay, basically we're just gonna and then basically hopefully it'll sit straight. Like you want this to be level here straight, and then you want your bulb to be facing straight up, not like tilted to the side or anything. So, and then basically you just let it cure for however long the instructions on the back say. I think this one's like 24 hours for full cure and a maximum strength. So we are just going to let that sit overnight. And maybe we'll add a little extra around these edges. Hopefully this will hold it. Remember, do not touch the bulb, especially with this black goop. So I'm gonna just set that aside and let it cure overnight. Ooh. Okay, so it's been like about 14-15 hours since I set this, and the silicone has dried. And see if we can see it. So the lighting is kind of bad. So you can see it's dried all around there, and surprisingly, this silicone is pretty strong in relation to the light bulb. It's pretty good, but if you're not satisfied with that, probably put some JB Weld over that. I think I got this before I did this project, so I was gonna put it around here also, but I think it will hold. So if it doesn't, I will just put some JB Weld on next time I take it off. So now, to put those the light in here, what I did was I took this rubber cover on the back of the fog light. I'm gonna replace this after I put it on, but I think it's easier to put the bulb in it if you don't have this big rubber thing. Okay, so there, rubber's off, these two pieces, and so basically, see how this thing fits. So just be careful that you don't hit the light bulb a bunch. There you go. There you go. Perfect. Fits in there perfect. And then here's what it looks like from the front. Oh man, I got some sweaty hands. Looks pretty much completely stock. so it fits in there really good. Doesn't look like the silicone's given away at all. So I'm just going to go ahead and replace this rubber thing we just took off. And then we'll be able to put this bad boy back on the car. It's on this way? Yeah, this way. Has these these random tabs on here. I don't really know what they're for. Maybe for like drainage or something. Sweet. There we go. Let's take this thing out and test fit it and see if it works. What I did here is I just hooked it up really quick. I put in that little wire harness back in there, and I hooked up our little tabs here, and then I just hooked in our ballast, and then we're just gonna see if it turns on when we flip the switch. Make sure everything works correctly. Ooh, yeah. So now it looks like a ridiculous amount of light because the camera amplifies the light, but in person it's really not that bright. So we know that it works, and if it doesn't work, you just have to switch these two wires around because it's different polarity, so you got to switch them around. It won't work and if it's the wrong way. Okay, so this step is optional, but I'd recommend it. So I just put a little bit of, it's hard to see, but I put a little bit of heat shrink over the connectors, just so to help prevent shorting it out. So I'm gonna put some heat shrink over this other one. And as you can see, we've now heat shrinked both of our connectors right there, so there's no bare wire like sticking out and can short on stuff. So now we can put the fog light back in and start closing this thing up. Okay, so one of the hardest parts of this part was just trying to find a place for the ballast. So I got everything tightened up and I ran the wires up through. There's a big hole in there for the intake to take in air. And I just ran the wires through here and mounted it next to the ballast with zip ties and Velcro. I mounted it next to the headlight, or the low beam ballast, and then here's the low beam ballast, and then here's the fog ballast beside it on that. I don't know what that is. Some sort of blocker for the intake. That's where I put it on this completely stock engine. And then I'm just going to zip tie these wires so they're not hanging randomly way out here. I'm just going to zip tie them up close to these other wires and then close it up. And so here it goes.